People who look like something out of a George Romero film. And gentlemen, this won't take too long. I'm going to focus real quickly on Harry Reid, who is thankfully retiring at the end of his term. So come January 2017, that piece of garbage will no longer be ruining the country. And Harry Reid's got a penchant for calling people losers, which he's got the right to do. And as a side note, Harry, you look terrible, dude. But I think Harry Reid's the biggest loser, and my sources here, I'll have screenshots of the 2 videos I've already done on this. I've already gone through all this information up, down, and sideways. So if you want to go watch those videos, and again, they're very detailed, so it's not something you can just cover in 3 minutes like a lot of people do. They can take a complex subject and they throw a couple sound bites out. But Harry Reid is the biggest loser, and here's why. And again, just follow the screenshots, and I'll have clips from those videos going up as well across the screen. Federal debt per capita. Pay attention. Federal debt per capita in 2007. This is in fiscal year 2009 dollars, though. Federal debt per capita in 2007 was $30,485. Now, when the Democrats took over Congress, fiscal year 2007 was already in motion, so we can't give them credit for that. But fiscal year 2008, which began on October 1st, 2007, we can give them credit for that. So we're going to see how bad it gets under Harry Reid as he was Senate Majority Leader. And I'm not going to be including this last fiscal year, as the official numbers aren't out yet, but you'll get a good idea. So federal debt per capita in 2007, in fiscal year 2009 dollars, were $30,485. That was the last full fiscal year before Harry Reid became Senate Majority Leader. By the end of fiscal year 2014, which ended September 30th, 2014, the federal debt per capita had ballooned to $51,919 per person in fiscal year 2009 dollars, adjusted for inflation. Under the leadership of Harry Reid, from fiscal years 2008 through fiscal year 2014, national debt per capita adjusted for inflation increased by over $21,000. Do you get that? Do you understand how large that is? Per person. Over $21,000. Find me another Senate Majority Leader who was at that post 4 years or more who saddled your children and grandchildren with more debt than that. You know, you can even adjust it per year. Nobody's spent that much. Now, some Democrats will say, well, dang, Republicans took over the House on January 2011. True. But when I hear them talk about how good Bill Clinton was, a lot of them don't give the Republican Congress much credit, and they controlled Congress for 3/4 of Clinton's presidency. And when they're whining about Reagan's spending, they fail to mention that the Democrats controlled the House the whole time. So it is, yes, I understand it is a team effort, but Harry Reid and his leadership post did nothing but spend. Federal spending per capita in fiscal year 2007, adjusted for inflation in fiscal year 2009 dollars, was $9,382. So that's our baseline. And in fiscal year 2008, Harry Reid became Senate Majority Leader. By fiscal year 2014, that spending had rocketed up to $10,157. However, that's much lower than the average under Hussein Obama. Hussein Obama has presided over 5 fiscal years, but since the official numbers from OMB for fiscal year 2015 won't be out for a while, I'm excluding that, as I said earlier. Hussein's average for fiscal year 2010 through 2014, which featured Harry Reid as Senate Majority Leader the entire time, the average was $10,676.2. So in other words, and comparing that to the average spending per capita adjusted for inflation under Bush, Hussein and his Congress are spending over $1,200 more per person than when W. Bush was president under his Congress. $9,419.5 was the average under Bush. And again, remember, this is all adjusted for inflation in 2009 dollars. So do you see how Harry Reid, and yes, again, it's a team effort, but as his tenure as Senate Majority Leader, one of the darkest tenures in American history, I think Harry Reid is the biggest loser of them all. He should be ashamed of himself. Harry Reid voted for TARP, voted to bail out big banks. Of course, he will not put forward any legislation to end FDIC depositor insurance, which is a huge sop to big banks, and it's cronyism. So Harry Reid voted for TARP. He voted for Dodd-Frank. He voted for the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which was $820 billion basically thrown out the window. And while he did not vote to expand Medicare back in 2003, he did vote for cloture on that legislation, which effectively lowered the threshold for passage from 60 to 51. So if you really hate something, you should never vote for cloture. This piece of garbage, Harry Reid, also supports the Patriot Act. I remember when it first got signed. I admit, back in that time, I would have supported it. But that's back when I was a neocon. I'm a libertarian now. I would not support it now. But Harry Reid was smiling ear to ear. I remember it was on the Drudge Report. Smiling ear to ear as Bush signed the Patriot Act into law. And then later he played politics with it, but still voted for it. Still supports it. Reid supports the Patriot Act, voted for No Child Left Behind, voted for the Export-Import Bank, voted for Obamacare, which is probably the biggest failure since Smoot-Hawley. He is an enemy of the taxpayer, but a good friend to his casino operating cronies and deep-pocketed, rich, white, progressive friends. Harry Reid, I liken you to a steaming pile of dung, although some dung has a use, it can be fertilizer. So Harry Reid, in conclusion, is the biggest loser. National debt has exploded as he was Senate Majority Leader. Spending per capita has exploded. So all Harry Reid's done is basically sentence your children and grandchildren to a point where they are just going to, if they're successful, if they don't have a bunch of kids out of wedlock and drop out of high school and become alcoholics, then they can get on welfare. But if they're successful, they are going to get pilfered to pay for all this spending, because Harry Reid has never seen a spending bill he didn't like. Well, unless Bush was president, and then he probably voted against some of them. But basically, Harry Reid is nothing but a big spender. He is your typical politician, actually worse than the typical politician. So, the fact that he takes himself seriously, or anyone takes himself seriously, is an affront as far as I'm concerned, because he is a piece of garbage. And before I get too long-winded, that's enough for now. But that should give you a good idea of the damage Harry Reid has done to America. Have a nice day.